"I can clean your bathroom for a meal." But when the millionaire saw her, he froze. Katherine Johnson took a deep breath before kneeling before the imposing gates of the mansion. Her trembling hands rose in supplication as she watched the luxury car approach. Hunger had gnawed at her stomach for 2 days, and desperation had finally overcome the pride she had carried all her life. When the businessman stepped out of the vehicle, she swallowed the lump in her throat and forced the words out. "Please, sir, can I clean your bathroom in exchange for a meal?" Michael Anderson stopped completely. The motion of locking his car froze mid-air. Slowly, he turned to look at the woman begging before his home. At first, his mind struggled to process the unusual scene, but when his eyes met hers, the world around them disappeared. Those eyes, that hoarse yet familiar voice, the shape of her face, though now marked by suffering and hunger. His blood ran cold. I can also cook or do laundry, so—" "Anything, sir?" Katherine continued, unaware of the shock written across his face. "I just need one meal, just one." Michael felt his legs weaken. It was impossible. After 30 years of searching, after hiring detectives, after placing ads in newspapers, after scouring schools across the country, she was here, at his doorstep, begging for food. Teacher Katherine, the woman who had changed his life, the one who had sold her own home to pay for his education and that of other poor students, the woman he had never been able to find to thank. And now she stood before him, unrecognizable from hunger and hardship, offering to clean his bathroom. He tried to speak, but no words came. "I know I must look suspicious, sir," Katherine hurried to say, misreading his silence, "but I can show you my work ID. I'm an honest person. I worked as a teacher for many years before things got difficult." The word teacher hit Michael like a punch to the gut. He closed his eyes, struggling to contain the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. When he opened them again, Katherine was standing, looking ready to leave. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir. I'll find somewhere else." "No!" The word came out louder than he intended. Katherine startled. "I mean, come in, please." She hesitated, surprised by his sudden change in demeanor. "You have work for me?" "Yes," Michael lied, still trying to process the impossible situation before him. "Yes, I do." Without revealing he recognized her, he led her into the mansion. Every step was torture. He wanted to shout, to embrace her, to tell her everything, but something held him back. Maybe it was her wounded pride, maybe the shock, maybe the fear she would run if she knew the truth. "Margaret," he called to the housekeeper, "please prepare a meal for her." "No, sir," Katherine protested. "First I work, then I eat. That's how it's always been." The determination in her voice broke Michael's heart. Even now she held on to her dignity, just like the teacher he remembered, the one who taught him that work dignifies a person. "All right," he agreed, fighting the urge to reveal everything at once. "You can start with the bathrooms upstairs." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. As Katherine climbed the stairs with the cleaning supplies Margaret had set aside, Michael stood frozen in the living room, his hands shaking. 30 years he had searched for her, and now she was here, cleaning his house for a meal. How had she come to this? The last time he had tried to track her down, he discovered she had retired from the school where she taught. After that, the trail had gone completely cold. "Mr. Michael?" Margaret pulled him from his thoughts. "She seems very weak. She hasn't eaten in days, from what I can tell." "Prepare the best meal we have," he ordered, "and install some discreet cameras in the hallways. I want to make sure she's safe." "Cameras, sir? For a cleaner?" "Just do as I ask, Margaret." The housekeeper nodded, puzzled by her employer's behavior but knowing better than to question him. Michael quietly went upstairs to watch Katherine working. She cleaned every corner with a dedication that moved him. Even weakened by hunger, even in such a humiliating situation, she maintained the same meticulousness she had shown when preparing her lessons. Suddenly, Katherine staggered. Michael saw it through the cameras he had just pulled up on his phone. She leaned against the wall, clearly dizzy. He was about to rush to help her when she steadied herself and kept cleaning. 2 hours later, she had finished 3 bathrooms. When she came downstairs, she was visibly exhausted. "All done, sir. May I eat now?" "Of course. Margaret made something special for you." Catherine sat at the kitchen table, and when she saw the generous plate of food, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, sir. You're very kind." Kind. She was thanking him for her own food, him who owed everything he had to her. The irony was too painful to bear. As Catherine ate, Michael watched from a distance. She ate slowly, savoring every bite as if it were the most precious meal in the world. When she finished, she carefully wiped the plate and stood up. "May I come back tomorrow, sir? I have experience with deep cleaning, kitchen work, laundry." "Yes, you may." "Actually," he hesitated, "why don't you stay here tonight? It's very late and—" "No, sir. That wouldn't be proper. I have a place to stay." A lie. Michael could hear the hesitation in her voice, but he didn't press. Not yet. "Then until tomorrow, same time?" "Yes, sir. And thank you again." She left through the kitchen door, politely refusing his offer to call her a taxi. He watched her walk down the street, carrying an old, worn-out bag. The moment she disappeared from sight, Michael grabbed his phone. "Jennifer, it's me. I need you to hire a private investigator, the best one you can find. I want to know everything about a woman named Catherine Johnson. Where she lives, how she's been living, why she's in this situation. Everything." "Michael, what's this about? It's almost 11 at night." "It's urgent, Jennifer. Very urgent." His sister sighed on the other end of the line. "Fine, you'll have the information first thing in the morning." That night, Michael couldn't sleep a wink. He paced the house, remembering his school days. Catherine Johnson had been more than a teacher to him. When his parents died in an accident when he was 16, it was she who kept him from dropping out. It was she who secretly paid his tuition at the private school he attended. It was she who helped him secure a full scholarship for college, and he hadn't learned any of it until years later, when he had already graduated with a business degree and was starting to prosper. A classmate, in a chance encounter, had mentioned the crazy teacher who sold her own house to help underprivileged students. That was when Michael realized Catherine wasn't just a dedicated teacher. She had literally sacrificed her financial security to give kids like him a future. When he tried to find her to thank her, she had already left town. And ever since then, he had been searching. The next morning, at exactly 7 o'clock, Catherine was at the kitchen door again. Michael watched her arrive from his office window. She had combed her hair and tried to smooth out her wrinkled clothes, but she still looked visibly worn out. "Good morning, sir. Where would you like me to start today?" "Good morning, Catherine. You can have some coffee first." "No, sir. I'd rather work first." "I insist. No one works on an empty stomach in my home." She hesitated but finally agreed. As she drank her coffee, Michael sat down at the table with her. "Catherine, may I ask how you ended up here? I mean, how did you know I needed household help?" "I didn't, sir. I was going door to door in the neighborhood looking for work. Yesterday, I tried over 20 places before I got here." "And before? What did you do for a living?" "I was a teacher," she answered, and for the first time, a sad smile crossed her face. "I taught for over 40 years. It was the happiest time of my life." "Why did you stop?" Catherine fell silent for a long moment, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "Things changed, sir. I made some choices. Choices that cost me everything. But I don't regret it. I never regret it." "What kind of choices?" "I helped some former students who were struggling. I used all my savings, sold my house, took out loans. In the end, I lost everything. But they managed to graduate, found good jobs. One of them even became a successful businessman." Michael's heart nearly stopped. "A businessman?" "Yes. I never heard from him personally again, but sometimes I see news about him in the papers. Michael Anderson, I think that's his name. Have you heard of him?" Michael had to grip the table to keep from falling out of his chair. She was talking about him. She hadn't recognized him, but she still remembered his name. Yes, I've heard of him. That boy was special. He lost his parents very young, but he had incredible determination. I knew he'd go far. And he did. Now he has companies, mansions. Must have completely forgotten about the old teacher who helped him. Every word was a knife in Michael's chest. Forgotten. He had spent 30 years looking for her. I'm sure he hasn't forgotten, Michael managed to say, his voice nearly breaking. It would be nice if that were true, Catherine said with a sad smile. But it's normal. Life moves on. What matters is that he made it. That's what counts. Michael abruptly stood up from the table. Excuse me, I have to take a call. He nearly ran out of the kitchen and went to his office. He closed the door and collapsed into his chair, covering his face with his hands. The tears came uncontrollably. She hadn't forgotten him. She was still proud of him, and he was right there, in front of her, and she didn't know. The phone rang. It was Jennifer. Michael, I have the information you asked for. It's not good news. Tell me. Catherine Johnson, 67 years old, retired teacher, lost her home 2 years ago due to debt. Currently lives at St. Mary's Shelter downtown. Poor conditions. Michael, she's sick. She has a heart condition that requires surgery, but she can't afford it. Surgery? What kind of surgery? A valve replacement. Without it, she has 6 months at most. The world crumbled around Michael. 6 months. Catherine had 6 months to live, and she didn't even know he was right there, willing to give anything to save her. Jennifer, I want you to schedule an appointment with the best cardiologist in the city for today. Michael, what's going on? Who is this woman? She's the teacher I've been searching for 30 years. She's here in my house cleaning bathrooms for food. The silence on the other end of the line was long. My God, Michael. And she didn't recognize you? No. And I can't tell her. Not yet. I need to find a way to help her without her finding out who I am. Why? Because she has pride, Jennifer. A lot of it. If she knows I'm the Michael she helped, she'll feel humiliated. She might run, and I can't lose her again. When Michael returned to the kitchen, Catherine was washing the breakfast dishes. Ready to start work, sir? Catherine, I need to go out, but I want you to rest a bit. You look tired. No, sir, I came here to work. Well, how about tending to the garden? It's lighter work. She agreed, and Michael left to meet the doctor Jennifer had arranged. Dr. Harold Thompson was the best cardiologist in town. From what you've described, this requires urgent surgery, the doctor explained, but we'd need to examine her first. How much does the surgery cost? Between $200,000 and $300,000, depending on complications. Money isn't the problem. The problem is convincing her to accept treatment without raising suspicion. How so? Michael told the doctor the whole story, leaving him impressed. I see. Here's what we can do. I'll conduct a home visit. I'll say it's a routine checkup you provide for all employees. Perfect. Can it be this afternoon? When Michael returned home, he found Catherine in the garden, pulling weeds. Even sick, even weak, she worked with determination. Catherine, I have a proposal. She stopped and looked at him. I offer medical checkups to all my employees. It's company policy. How about getting one this afternoon? No need, sir, I'm fine. I insist it's mandatory. She hesitated but agreed. That afternoon, when Dr. Thompson arrived, Michael introduced him as the company doctor. The exam was discreet but thorough. Catherine cooperated, though she seemed uneasy with all the attention. After she returned to the garden, the doctor pulled Michael aside. It's worse than we thought. She could collapse at any moment. The surgery must happen this week. How do I convince her? Leave it to me. I'll say we detected a minor issue that needs preventive correction. Something routine. But Catherine wasn't foolish. When the doctor explained the minor preventive surgery, she shook her head. Doctor, I'm a 67-year-old woman. I know my body. I've been sick for months, and I know I can't afford any treatment. But Mr. Michael's company has health coverage that... I've worked here 2 days, doctor. No company gives benefits to someone they barely know. Michael felt he was losing the battle. Catherine was too sharp for lies. Catherine, he tried one last time, let me help you. please. Why, sir? Why would a stranger do this for me? The question hung in the air. Michael looked into the eyes of the woman who had changed his life and knew he couldn't lie anymore. Because you're not a stranger to me. What do you mean? I know your work. I know what you did for your students. I know you sold your home to help them. Catherine paled. How do you know that? Because I'm one of them. The silence that followed was deafening. Catherine stared at Michael wide-eyed, as if seeing a ghost. One of them? Which student? Michael Anderson, class of 1994, son of Joseph and Mary Anderson. Catherine pressed a hand to her chest, breathless. Michael. My Michael. Your Michael, teacher. She staggered, and Michael caught her before she fell. It's impossible, she whispered. It's impossible. Teacher, I've searched for you for 30 years. 30 years trying to thank you for what you did for me. Tears streamed down Catherine's aged face. Michael, but how? You were just a boy. I grew up, teacher. I grew up and succeeded, all because of you. No, it can't be true. You're a millionaire. You have this mansion. I have all this because you gave me the chance to study, because you believed in me when even I didn't. Catherine pulled away from Michael's embrace, stepping back. No, this isn't right. I came here to ask for food, to humiliate myself before you. My God, the shame. Teacher, no. I asked to clean your bathroom, she cried, covering her face with her hands. What humiliation? The only humiliation here is mine, Michael shouted back. You saved my life, and I let you go hungry at my doorstep. Catherine stopped crying and looked at him. You didn't know who I was. I should have known. I should have recognized you immediately. 30 years searching, and when I finally find you, you're asking for food. They stared at each other, both in tears. Michael, Catherine said softly, I don't want your charity. It's not charity, teacher. It's gratitude, it's justice. It's the same thing. No, charity is giving out of pity. Gratitude is giving out of love. And I love you like a mother. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, Catherine began to cry again, but now they were different tears. Tears of relief, of recognition, of love. My boy has grown up, she whispered, touching his face. My boy has become a good man. Thanks to you. No, Michael. You were always special. I just opened the door. You were the one who walked through it. They embraced at last. 30 years of searching, 30 years of longing, finally coming to an end. Teacher, I need to tell you something. You're sick, very sick. You need surgery. I know, she sighed. I've felt it for months, but I can't afford it. I'll pay. It's the least I can do. Michael, I can't accept that. You can and you will. I won't lose you again, not now that I've found you. Catherine was silent for a long moment. If I accept this help, it'll be a loan. I'll work for you until I've paid back every cent. Teacher, that's the only way I'll agree. Michael sighed. He knew Catherine well enough to realize she wouldn't change her mind. All right, but not as a cleaner, as an educational coordinator. What do you mean? I own several businesses, teacher, and for years I've wanted to create a scholarship program. I need someone to lead it, someone with experience, with a love for education. You're making up this job to help me. No. I was just waiting to find the right person, and I just did. Catherine looked at him with both suspicion and tenderness. You've always been stubborn. I learned from the best. She laughed for the first time in months, a weak laugh, but genuine. All right, I accept, but on one condition. Anything. I want to meet your other former students. I want to know how they're doing. I'm already arranging that. Actually, Michael hesitated. I have a confession to make. More confessions? 10 years ago, I started an educational foundation. It's called the Catherine Johnson Foundation. Catherine stared at him, stunned. What? When I couldn't find you, I decided to honor your memory this way. The foundation has already helped over 500 underprivileged youth. Michael, you used my name. It was the only way to keep you alive in my life. Every graduate knows they're here because of a teacher named Katherine Johnson who changed a poor boy's life. Katherine collapsed into the garden chair, sobbing. 500 young people, 516 to be exact, and now that I've found you, the foundation will grow even more. My God, I thought I'd lost everything, that my life had no meaning left. Your life has always had meaning, teacher. More meaning than any life I know. That evening, Katherine dined at the head table of the mansion for the first time. Margaret, who had learned the whole story, prepared a special meal. Over dinner, Katherine told Michael about other students she'd helped over the years. There's Carly, who became a doctor, Brian, who's an engineer, Patricia, who opened a school in Miami. Teacher, I'm going to find all of them. We'll have a reunion. Michael, you don't have to. Yes, I do. They have the right to know you're okay, and to thank you in person. The next day, Katherine was admitted for surgery. Michael never left her side, not even for a minute. During the operation, he paced the hospital hallways like a desperate son. The surgery lasted 6 hours. When the doctor finally appeared, Michael was at the edge of his nerves. Everything went well. Dr. Thompson smiled. Mrs. Johnson is a fighter. She'll make a full recovery. Michael nearly fainted from relief. While Katherine recovered, Michael worked tirelessly to track down her other former students. Jennifer helped him by hiring a team of investigators. Within 2 weeks, they had found 23 people Katherine had helped over the years. The first to arrive was Carly Peterson, now a respected cardiologist in Chicago. Teacher Katherine, she shouted as she entered the hospital room. I can't believe it's you. Carly, my little Carly. The same. Graduated in medicine, just like you always said I would. The two hugged, crying. Michael watched from a distance, moved. Teacher, when I heard you were here, I cancelled all my appointments. I came running. But how did you know? Michael found me. He told me everything. Katherine looked at Michael, who was leaning against the wall. That boy never stopped surprising me. Boy? Carly laughed. Teacher, he's the most successful businessman in the country, and it's all thanks to you. In the following days, more former students arrived. Brian Foster, civil engineer, Patricia Miller, school principal, Anthony Smith, dentist, Marcia Coleman, lawyer. One by one, people Katherine had helped decades ago came to thank her. Each reunion was an explosion of emotions. Some had searched for her for years, others thought she had passed away. Everyone had stories of how her help had completely changed their lives. Teacher, Brian said during one visit, you saved over 50 young people over the years. Just look at what we've done with the opportunities you gave us. Brian had become one of the biggest builders in the Midwest. Patricia ran a network of private schools. Anthony owned 5 dental clinics. They had all thrived. And now, Carly said, we want to give back. What do you mean? Katherine asked. We're creating a joint fund. All of us will contribute monthly to the Katherine Johnson Foundation. We want to multiply what you did. Katherine looked at Michael, who was smiling in the corner of the room. Was this his idea? No, Brian answered. It was ours. Michael just helped us find each other. A week later, Katherine was discharged from the hospital, but instead of returning to the shelter, she went straight to Michael's mansion. Welcome to your new home, he said, opening the door for her. Michael, I can't live here. You can, and you will. Now you're the official coordinator of the foundation. You need an office, resources, and you need to be close to work. He had transformed the entire ground floor of the mansion into the foundation's headquarters. There were classrooms, a library, a computer lab, an auditorium. Everything was ready for the first scholarship recipients. My God, Michael, this is a dream. It's our reality now, teacher. In the following months, the Katherine Johnson Foundation became the largest private educational organization in the state. Katherine's former students came from all over the country to contribute. Businessmen who heard her story offered partnerships. Universities created special programs for the foundation's scholars. Katherine, at 67 years old, was more active than ever. She worked from 7 in the morning until 7 at night, interviewing candidates, tracking student progress, creating new programs. "Professor, you need to rest," Michael would always say. "Rest? I'm doing what I love most in life. Why should I rest?" One Friday afternoon, 6 months after her surgery, Catherine was in her office when she received an unexpected visitor. "Professor Catherine?" She looked up and saw a young man of about 25 at the door. "Yes? Can I help you?" "My name is Gabriel Oliver. I'm a law student at the State University. I came to thank you." "Thank me, but I don't know you, not personally. But you saved my life anyway." Catherine was confused. "How so?" "I've been a scholarship recipient at the Katherine Johnson Foundation for 3 years. I used to collect trash before getting the scholarship. Now I'm graduating with honors. And it all started because a teacher named Katherine Johnson once decided to sell her house to help poor students." Tears welled up in Catherine's eyes. "Gabriel, Professor, you have no idea how many lives you've changed. Not just the students you helped directly, but all of us who benefited from the foundation created in your name. Hundreds of people." That night, during dinner, Catherine told Michael about Gabriel's visit. "You know, Michael, when I lost everything, when I ended up at the shelter, I even thought my life had been useless, that all the sacrifices had been in vain. And now? Now I understand nothing is in vain when you plant love. It may take time to bloom, it may seem like it died, but it always comes back. It always multiplies. You taught me that, Professor. You taught me that educating is planting trees whose shade we may never enjoy. And look at the forest that's grown. A year after the meeting at the mansion, the Katherine Johnson Foundation was present in 5 states. Over 1,000 young people had been helped. Catherine's former students had opened branches of the foundation in their cities. One Tuesday morning, Catherine was teaching a group of new scholarship recipients when Michael appeared at the classroom door with a mysterious smile. "Professor, may I interrupt for a moment?" "Of course, what is it?" "There's a surprise for you outside." Intrigued, Catherine stepped out of the room, followed by her students. In the mansion's courtyard, a crowd was waiting for her. Over 200 people, all her former students or foundation beneficiaries. "Surprise!" they all shouted at once. Catherine brought a hand to her chest, moved. "What is this?" "It's your 68th birthday party," Michael explained, "and also a tribute." In the center of the courtyard stood a small stage. Michael led her there. "Exactly 2 years ago," he began, addressing the crowd, "a woman knelt at my doorstep asking to clean a bathroom in exchange for food. What she didn't know was that she was asking for help from the very person who owed everything to her." The crowd applauded. Today, that same woman leads the largest educational foundation in the state. She's graduated over 1,000 underprivileged youth, and all because she has something few possess, the ability to love without expecting anything in return. Catherine was crying, but they were tears of joy. "Professor Katherine Johnson," Michael continued, "you once told me that educating is planting trees. Today I want you to see the forest you've planted." One by one, former students and foundation beneficiaries took the stage to express their gratitude. Doctors, engineers, teachers, lawyers, business owners, people who had escaped extreme poverty and now led prosperous lives. "And now," Michael said finally, "I want to announce that the City Council has approved our proposal. The old school where the professor once taught will become the Katherine Johnson School, a public school of excellence managed by our foundation." Catherine could no longer speak through her tears. "Michael, you all did this. We did it together, teacher, like always." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The party lasted well into the night. Catherine spoke with every person who came to thank her. She heard stories of overcoming hardships, of achievements, of dreams fulfilled, and she realized her life had been far more meaningful than she'd ever imagined. At the end of the evening, when everyone had left, Catherine and Michael were alone in the mansion's garden. "Michael, I need to tell you something." "What is it, teacher?" "That first morning when you saw me at your door." "Yes, I recognized you." Michael looked at her surprised. What do you mean? I recognized your eyes. I always knew it was you from the very first moment. But why didn't you say anything? Because I needed to be sure of the kind of man you'd become. I wanted to see if success hadn't changed your heart. And I found out I raised a good man, a man who cares for others the way I always dreamed he would. Michael hugged Catherine tightly. Teacher, thank you for not giving up on me when I was just a scared little boy. Thank you for not giving up on looking for me when I became a lost old woman. 2 years later, the Katherine Johnson School was considered the best public school in the country. The Katherine Johnson Foundation operated in 15 states. Catherine, now 70, had been named an honorary citizen of 3 different cities. One spring afternoon, she was in her office when she received a call. Teacher, it's Gabriel. Gabriel, my dear, how are you? Good, teacher. Actually, better than good. I just passed the bar exam, with the highest score in my class. That's wonderful, I'm so proud. Teacher, I want to make a proposal. How about I work as the foundation's lawyer? Pro bono, of course. It's my way of giving back. Catherine smiled. Gabriel, you don't owe me anything. Yes, I do, teacher. And do you know why? Why? Because I learned from you that receiving an opportunity creates the obligation to create opportunities for others. That phrase echoed in Catherine's mind for the rest of the day. That was exactly it. The cycle of good. The multiplication of love. The following week, during the graduation of the first students from the Katherine Johnson School, she took the stage to deliver the commencement speech. Dear young graduates, she began, looking at the 50 students, you're here today because many people believe that education is the one thing no one can take from you. You're here because you understood that knowledge is power, but wisdom is knowing how to use that power for good. The audience listened in absolute silence. But now, you have a responsibility. Each of you represents not just a dream fulfilled, but a promise for the future. The promise that you'll use what you've learned to transform other lives, just as yours were transformed. The applause was thunderous. I'm 70 years old, she continued. I've lived long enough to see that the only real wealth is what we share. The only true success is what we multiply. And the only love worth having is the kind we plant, knowing we may never see it bloom. As she stepped off the stage, Catherine was surrounded by reporters. The foundation's story had spread nationwide. Teacher Catherine, one journalist asked, what's the secret to transforming so many lives? There's no secret, she replied simply. It's just believing every child deserves a chance, and giving that chance, even if it costs you everything. And is it worth it? Catherine looked at Michael sitting in the front row, smiling at her. She looked at the graduates, radiant with their diplomas. She looked at the school's teachers, dedicated and passionate about their work. Always. It's worth every penny, every tear, every sleepless night. It's worth it because education is the only real miracle that exists. It's about taking a lost child and giving the world an adult capable of changing reality. 3 months later, Catherine received an offer from the Department of Education to bring the Katherine Johnson School model to the entire country. It was an ambitious project that would involve creating 100 schools in 5 years. Professor, the secretary said during the meeting in Washington, D.C., we want you to oversee this project nationally. Secretary, I'm already 70 years old. I don't know if I have the energy for something so big. Professor, Michael interrupted, who said you'd be doing it alone? We have a network of over 1,000 former students willing to help. We have resources, experience, and determination. We just need your vision. Catherine looked around the room. Present were the secretary, 3 state education directors, Michael and 6 other former students who had become successful entrepreneurs or educators. All right, she finally said, but on one condition. What is it? I want half the spots in each school reserved for homeless youth or those in extreme poverty, the most forgotten in society. Professor, one of the directors said, that might be complicated. These kids have educational gaps, social issues. That's exactly why they need our help the most, Catherine interrupted. If we don't care for those in greatest need, what's the point of all our work? The secretary hesitated, but ultimately agreed. A year later, the first 5 Katherine Johnson schools opened simultaneously in 5 different state capitals. The ceremony was broadcast nationwide. Katherine made sure to attend every opening, flying on a plane for the first time in her life at 71. At each school, she planted a sapling in the central courtyard. "This tree will grow alongside the students," she explained. 20 years from now, when they're successful adults, they can come back here and remember that everything started with a small seed, planted with love. The impact was enormous. Other countries began taking interest in the American model. Katherine received invitations to speak in the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. "Professor," Michael said one evening over dinner, "you've become an international figure." "Nonsense, Michael. I'm just a teacher doing what I've always done, believing in young people. A teacher who's changing the education system of an entire country. It's not just me, it's all of you. The former students, the school teachers, the supporting entrepreneurs, the families who believe I'm just one small link in this chain." 2 years after the first opening, there were already 40 Katherine Johnson schools. The student acceptance rate into public universities was 95%. The project had become a global model for transformative education. One autumn afternoon, Katherine was reviewing plans for the next schools when she received a special visit. "Professor Katherine?" She looked up and saw a young woman about 25 with a girl around 8 years old. "Yes? How can I help you?" "My name is Amanda Smith. This is my daughter, Sophie. I wanted to thank you." "Thank me? I don't remember meeting you." "You don't know me personally, but you saved my life anyway." Katherine gestured for them to sit. "How so?" "I was homeless, Professor. Since I was 12, I survived by begging, by petty theft. I was lost until I got a spot at the first Katherine Johnson school that opened in Miami." Katherine listened intently. "The teachers never gave up on me, even when I skipped class, even when I caused trouble. They said it was about honoring the school's name, about honoring Professor Katherine, who believed in every young person. Amanda, today I have a degree in education. I'm a teacher. I work at one of the schools in the network. And my daughter..." She looked at the girl. "My daughter will never go through what I went through. She will study. She will have opportunities. She will be able to dream." The girl timidly approached Katherine. "Grandma Katherine," she said in a sweet voice, "Mum said you're the one who made all this possible." Katherine picked up the girl in her arms, moved. "No, sweetheart. Your mum is the one who made it all possible. She was the one who had the courage to change her life." "Professor," Amanda continued, "I wanted to ask you something." "Anything. Can I name you as Sophie's godmother? I know it's strange to ask this of someone you barely know, but..." "It would be an honor," Katherine interrupted, hugging them both. That night, Katherine told Michael about Amanda and Sophie's visit. "You know, Michael, today I understood something. It's not just the students we directly teach that we change. It's their children, their grandchildren, future generations. Every life we transform will transform other lives. It's an endless chain." "Exactly, Professor. That's why your work is so important." "Our work," she corrected. "Never forget we do this together." The following year, Katherine was nominated for the National Education Award. The ceremony would be held at the White House with the presence of the President. "Professor," Michael said, "are you nervous?" "A little," she admitted. "I never imagined I'd come this far." "You deserve all the recognition in the world." "It's not about deserving, Michael. It's about responsibility. Every honor I receive is a reminder that I must keep working, keep planting." During the ceremony, the President gave a moving speech about the importance of transformative education. When he called Katherine to the stage, the ovation lasted 5 minutes. "Professor Katherine Johnson," the President said, "represents the very best in American education. Your journey teaches us that one committed person can change the reality of thousands of others." Katherine approached the microphone, visibly moved. "Mr. President, distinguished guests, dear friends," she began. "This award is not mine. It belongs to all the teachers who believe education can transform lives. It belongs to all the young people who have the courage to dream despite hardships. It belongs to all the families who invest in education even when they lack the basics. The audience listened in reverent silence. I was just a teacher doing what I believed was right. I never imagined I'd one day be here, receiving such an honor. But I'm here to say that every dollar invested in education comes back multiplied. Every young person we educate becomes a multiplier of knowledge and hope. When she mentioned Michael in the audience, briefly sharing the story of how it all began, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I'll close by saying this award is a beginning, not an end. As long as there's a child without a school, as long as there's a young person without opportunity, our work will not be complete. The final ovation lasted nearly 10 minutes. 2 months after the award, Catherine was in her office when she received an international call. "Professor Catherine, this is Richard Johnson from Stanford University." "Stanford?" she repeated, surprised. "Yes, Professor. We've been following your work and would like to invite you to speak about transformative education at our international symposium." "But I don't speak English." "No problem. We'll arrange simultaneous translation. The world needs to know your method." Catherine looked out the window, watching the school children playing in the yard during recess. It was hard to believe that the woman who once begged for food at the door of a mansion was now being invited to speak at the most prestigious university in the world. "Professor Johnson," she finally said, "I accept the invitation. But I have one condition." "What is it?" "I want to take 10 students from our schools with me. I want them to see there are no limits to where education can take them." 3 months later, Catherine was in the main auditorium at Stanford University, standing before 500 educators from around the world. Beside her were 10 young Americans who just a year earlier had lived in extreme poverty. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began in Portuguese, waiting for the translation, "my name is Catherine Johnson, and I believe every child can fly. They just need someone to show them where their wings are." The lecture lasted 2 hours. Catherine shared her story, explained the school's methods, and presented their results. But what moved the audience most were the testimonies of the young people standing with her. "2 years ago, I was living under a bridge," said Charles, 17. "Today I'm here at Stanford because a teacher believed I was worth more than I ever imagined. My mother is a housekeeper and has 4 children," shared Mary, 16. "I thought my fate was to be a housekeeper too. The Catherine Johnson School showed me I can be anything I want." By the end, Catherine received a 15-minute standing ovation. Universities worldwide began reaching out for partnerships. The American model was becoming a global benchmark. "Professor," Michael said on the flight back, "do you realize what you've accomplished?" "We've accomplished it, Michael. We've always done this together." "Fine, we've accomplished it. But do you grasp the scale?" Catherine looked out the airplane window at the city lights below. "I see that every light down there could be a child who still needs our help. Recognition is nice, but we can't get comfortable. We have work to do." Back in the United States, Catherine immersed herself even deeper in her mission. There were now 80 Catherine Johnson schools across the country. The foundation had launched an exchange program with universities in the US and Europe offering full scholarships to top students. One Monday morning, as Catherine taught a class of freshmen, she was surprised to see Gabriel at the door, the former scholarship student who now worked as the foundation's lawyer. "Excuse me, Professor, may I interrupt?" "Of course, Gabriel. What is it?" "I have news. I just learned our foundation has been selected by the International Education Alliance as a global model for inclusive education." The class erupted in applause. Catherine steadied herself against the desk, overcome with emotion. "The International Education Alliance," she repeated. "Yes, Professor. They're creating a program based on our model to be implemented in 50 countries, and they want you to lead it." Catherine looked at the young faces in the room, all gazing at her with admiration and pride. "Class," she said, "you're witnessing what happens when we dedicate ourselves to learning and believe in our dreams. There are no limits to how far we can go. 5 years ago, I was begging for food at someone's door. Today, I'm being asked to help children across the world." "Professor," a student asked. "Will you accept?" "I'll consult all of you. After all, you're what matters most. Is it worth me traveling so much, being away so long, if it means sharing what we've learned with children in other countries?" "Yes," they shouted in unison. "Then it's decided. We're taking American education to the world." 6 months later, Catherine stood in New York at the International Education Alliance headquarters, signing the agreement to launch the Katherine Johnson Transformative Education Program. 50 countries pledged to implement the American model in their public schools. During the ceremony, the Secretary General moved Catherine to tears with his speech. "Professor Katherine Johnson teaches us that education is not a privilege, it's a right, that there are no children incapable of learning, only systems incapable of teaching them properly. Her work proves that when we believe in human potential, miracles happen." Catherine approached the microphone for her final speech. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion, "I stand here today representing not just the United States, but all teachers worldwide who believe that education is an act of love. I'm here for every young person who just needs one opportunity to show their worth." She paused, glancing at Michael in the audience. He was crying with pride. 6 years ago, I knocked on the door of a mansion asking for food, not because I chose to be poor, but because life circumstances led me there. Today, I understand that humiliation was necessary. It taught me that no matter how far we fall, we can always rise again, and more importantly, we can always help others rise too. The auditorium was utterly silent. The program we're launching today will reach millions of children in the coming years. Each one of them is a Michael, an Amanda, a Gabriel, a Carly. Each has the potential to change the world. Our only duty is to give them the tools to do so. The final ovation lasted 20 minutes. When it finally ended, Catherine stepped off the stage straight into Michael's arms. "Professor, I'm so proud. We did this, my son, all of us together." 3 years later, the Katherine Johnson program was running in all 50 agreed-upon countries. The results were astounding. In every nation, school dropout rates had been cut in half. The number of underprivileged youth entering universities had tripled. Catherine, now 76, still worked tirelessly. She traveled the world overseeing the program's implementation, but always returned to her original school in the United States. One autumn afternoon, she was in her office when she received a visit that would change her life once more. "Professor Catherine?" She looked up and saw a well-dressed man in his 40s accompanied by a teenager. "Yes? How can I help you?" "My name is Joseph Rogers. This is my daughter, Anna. I've come to make a confession." Catherine gestured for them to sit. "What kind of confession?" "Professor, 30 years ago, you had a student named Michael Anderson." "Yes, of course. My Michael. Well, I was his classmate, and there's something he never knew, something no one ever knew." A chill ran through Catherine. "What?" "When Michael's parents died and he was about to drop out of school, it wasn't you who paid for his education." "What do you mean?" "Of course it was me. I sold my house." "No, Professor, it was my father. He owned the school and he was moved by Michael's story. So he asked you to pretend you were paying so Michael would accept the help." Catherine's world froze. "What?" "My father said Michael was too proud. He'd never accept direct charity. So he arranged it with you. You acted like you were making the sacrifice and he paid in secret." Catherine covered her face, struggling to process the words. But I really did sell my house. I used the money to help other students." "I know. And my father found out about that too. That's why he paid for every other student you were helping. Always in secret, always behind the scenes." "Joseph, are you saying—" "I'm saying you never paid for anyone's education with your own money. But you did something far more important. You gave love, dedication. You believed in these kids when no one else did. That, Professor, is priceless." Catherine was in complete shock. "But why tell me this now?" "Because my father passed away last month and he left a letter asking me to share the truth. He said you deserved to know that your generosity inspired his." Joseph handed Catherine a yellowed envelope. "This is the letter he left for you." With trembling hands, Catherine opened it. Dear Professor Catherine, if you're reading this letter, it means I've already passed from this life. I need to confess a lie I kept for 30 years. When you offered to help young Michael, I was so moved by your generosity that I decided to help too. But I knew you'd never accept if you learned the truth. So I let you believe you were sacrificing your own security for the students. In reality, I was the one who made the financial sacrifice, but you were the one who made the emotional sacrifice, who gave unconditional love, who believed when no one else did. And that, dear Catherine, is worth more than all the money in the world. Thank you for teaching me that generosity inspires generosity. With eternal admiration, Anthony Rogers. Catherine finished reading the letter in tears. Joseph, so everything I built was built with true love, Professor. The money was just the tool. The fuel was your heart. That night, Catherine told Michael everything. He stayed silent for a long time. Professor, does this change anything? It changes everything and changes nothing, she replied. It changes because I discovered I had a guardian angel I never knew. It doesn't change because the love I felt for you all was always real. And it's that love that transformed our lives, not the money. Michael, I have a confession for you too. What is it? That first day when you saw me at your door, I truly had nowhere to sleep, nothing to eat. I wasn't pretending to be desperate. I really was desperate. I know, Professor. How do you know? Because I looked into it, because I care about you, and because I know it was that real desperation that allowed us to find each other again. Catherine smiled through her tears. Funny how life works, isn't it? Sometimes we need to lose everything to gain something much greater. And sometimes we need to humble ourselves to discover that humility is strength, not weakness. 2 years after the revelation about Joseph's father, Catherine was giving her final international lecture. At 78, she had decided to retire from traveling and dedicate herself fully to the schools in the United States. The auditorium was packed. In the audience, hundreds of educators who had implemented her method in dozens of countries. On stage, 10 young people from different nationalities who had been transformed by the Katherine Johnson program. Dear friends, she began, this is my farewell from the international stage, but it's not a sad farewell. It's a passing of the torch. She pointed to the young people beside her. These young men and women who were once beneficiaries of our program are now its coordinators in their countries. The teacher is no longer needed. The students have become the masters. One of the young men, a 25-year-old from Africa, stepped up to the microphone. Professor Catherine, on behalf of all the millions of young people you've transformed, we want to say, thank you for believing in us when we didn't even believe in ourselves. When Catherine stepped off the stage for the last time, she was greeted by a line of hundreds of people waiting to meet her. Educators, former students, parents, young people, each with a story of transformation to share. Back in the United States, Catherine settled permanently at the original school. She created a special project, classes for teachers on how to identify and develop potential in underprivileged youth. Professor, said Carly, now the Foundation's medical director, do you ever stop? Stop for what? Catherine laughed. As long as there are young people who need help, there's work to do. One spring morning, Catherine was in the classroom when she received a very special visit. Sophie, Amanda's daughter, now 15. Grandma Catherine, the girl shouted, running to hug her. Sophie, my dear, how are you? Good, I came to share some news. What news? I was accepted into the exchange program. I'm going to study a semester in the United Kingdom. Catherine hugged her tightly. How proud. Your mother must be overjoyed. She is. And do you know what she said? What? That this was only possible because a teacher named Katherine Johnson once decided to sell her house to help underprivileged youth. Catherine smiled, remembering her conversation with Joseph 2 years earlier. Sophie, can I tell you a secret? Of course. I didn't sell my house to help young people. I loved young people, and that inspired others to help too. It's love that transforms, my dear, not money. I don't understand. You will when you're older. The important thing is that you always remember, what changes lives isn't what we give, but how much we love. 5 years later, Katherine Johnson, now 83, sat in the garden of the school that bore her name, watching hundreds of children playing during recess. Beside her, Michael, now 58, read reports about the program's international expansion. Teacher, the numbers are astounding. 15 million young people have already benefited from the program in 80 countries. 15 million, she repeated, amazed. Michael, do you remember when I knocked on your door asking for food? Like it was yesterday. I never imagined that moment of despair would turn into all this. Nor did I imagine that desperate woman was the same one who had changed my life decades earlier. Catherine looked at a tree she had planted in the courtyard 10 years ago. Now it stood tall and lush, providing shade for dozens of children. You know, Michael, I've learned something over all these years. What? That it doesn't matter where you're born, how much money your family has, or what struggles you face. What matters is having someone who believes in you, someone who sees your light even when you can't see it yourself. And you've been that person for millions of young people. No, my dear, I was just the first link in an endless chain. Every young person we help becomes someone who helps others. Every life we transform becomes a tool for change. Just then, a little girl around 8 years old ran up to them. Grandma Catherine, Grandma Catherine. Hi, sweetheart, what is it? My teacher said you're the most important person at the school. Is that true? Catherine laughed and lifted the girl into her lap. No, my love. The most important person at the school is you. And that boy over there, and that girl playing with dolls. You are the future of the world. But my teacher said you saved lots of children. I didn't save anyone, sweetheart. I just believed every child could fly, and you did. The girl thought for a moment. Then when I grow up, I'll help other children fly too. Exactly, Catherine smiled. That's how it works. That's how the world gets better. As the girl ran off to play, Michael looked at Catherine with admiration. Teacher, do you realize that little girl will probably help hundreds of other children when she grows up? And those hundreds will help thousands, and the thousands will help millions. That's the miracle of education, Michael. We plant one seed and reap an endless forest. That afternoon, Catherine received a call that moved her deeply. Teacher Catherine, it's Charles. Charles, my dear, how are you? I'm well, teacher. Actually, better than well. I'm calling with news. What news? I've just been accepted into the PhD program at Stanford University. I'll be researching innovative education methods for underprivileged youth. Catherine closed her eyes, overwhelmed. Charles was the boy she had met under the overpass 15 years ago. Charles, I'm so proud, but you won't stop there, will you? How did you know? Because I know you have other plans. You're right. I want to return to the United States after my PhD and create a new school model, even better than the current one. And you will, I'm certain. Teacher, there's something I've never told you. What? On that first day when I arrived at school all dirty and hungry, you looked at me and said, Charles, you're going to go far. Remember? I do. Well then, those 3 words changed my life. No one had ever told me I could go far. From that day on, I believed. Catherine was crying. Charles, thank you for letting me be part of your journey. Thank you for teaching me that dreaming isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. After the call, Catherine kept thinking about how many Charleses there were in the world, how many young people just needed to hear that they could go far, how many lives could be transformed with 3 simple words, you'll go far. The following week, Catherine came up with the idea for a new project, motivational cards to be distributed in schools worldwide. Simple messages like, you've got this, you'll go far, believe in yourself. Michael, she said, I want to create 1 million cards with encouraging messages, one for every young person in our schools. Professor, that'll cost a fortune. Then we'll find sponsors, business people who've already benefited from our former students. I want every young person to know someone believes in them. The project was approved and implemented in 6 months. 1 million cards were distributed in schools across 100 countries. On each card was a photo of Catherine smiling and a message. Dear young person, you are special. You have unique potential. You can change the world. Believe in yourself as I believe in you. With love, Professor Catherine. The impact was global. Young people started posting photos with the cards on social media. Teachers reported remarkable behavioral changes in students who received them. One particularly touching story reached Catherine. A 12-year-old boy in Haiti had tried to drop out of school to work and help his family. On the day he went to say goodbye, he received one of the cards. He changed his mind right then. 3 years later, he was among the top students in his class. "Professor," Michael said, showing her the report, "the card project has already directly impacted 2 million young people. Teachers say students' self-esteem has drastically improved." "Two well-chosen words can change a life," Catherine replied. "Imagine what 2 million positive messages can do for the world." One December afternoon, while organizing her desk, Catherine found an old photo. It was of her first class as a teacher over 50 years ago, smiling young faces, full of hope. She picked up the phone and called Michael. "Michael, could you help me with something?" "Of course, Professor, what is it?" "I want to find all my former students from that first class, every single one." "Professor, that'll be difficult. It's been 50 years. "I know. But I want to know what became of those young people. I want to know if the seeds I planted took root." The project took 6 months to complete. The research team managed to locate 32 of the 35 students from Catherine's first class. 3 had passed away. The results were astounding. Among the 32 found 8 teachers, 5 doctors, 4 engineers, 3 lawyers, 2 business owners, 1 dentist, 1 veterinarian, 1 architect, and 7 civil servants. All led dignified lives, with educated children and stable families. "Professor," said Jennifer, who now coordinated the research, "want to know the most impressive part?" "What?" 15 of them became teachers or work in education in some way. You multiplied yourself." Catherine was silent for a long moment. "Jennifer, organize a reunion. I want to see all of them." The reunion was scheduled for a Saturday at the original school. Catherine was nervous. 50 years had passed. Would they still remember her? Would they feel gratitude or just indifference? When she arrived at the school that Saturday, she got the surprise of her life. The courtyard was decorated with banners and flowers. A large table had been set up with traditional dishes from various regions. And there they were, 32 people between 65 and 70 years old, all smiling and waiting for her. "Professor Catherine," they shouted in unison when they saw her. What followed were 4 hours of pure emotion. Each former student shared their journey, thanked her for something specific Catherine had done for them, and showed photos of their children and grandchildren. "Professor," said Marina, now a respected pediatrician, "do you remember when I wanted to drop out of school because my father had lost his job?" "I do. You called me after class and said, 'Marina, you're going to be a doctor.' I know it." Those words gave me the strength to keep going. "And I said you'd be a doctor because I saw your compassion for your classmates," Catherine replied. "You took care of everyone like they were your siblings." One by one, they shared memories. Each story was proof of how small gestures could have enormous impacts. "Professor," said Robert, now a successful lawyer, "there's something we all want to tell you." "What?" "Our children attended the Catherine Johnson schools, all of them, without exception." Catherine brought a hand to her chest, surprised. "How?" "When we found out there were schools named after you, we made sure to enroll our children there. We wanted them to have the same education we did. And now our grandchildren go there too," added Mary, a retired teacher. Catherine couldn't stop crying. It means you've educated 3 generations of the same family," Robert said. "Mine, my children's, and now my grandchildren's." At the end of the gathering, they had a surprise for Catherine. They had created a joint scholarship fund. Each would contribute monthly to support underprivileged youth in honor of the first teacher who believed in them. "Professor," Marina said, "this scholarship will be called First Seed, to remind us that you were the first person to plant hope in our hearts." When Catherine returned home that night, she was exhausted but radiant. Michael was waiting in the living room. "How was it, Professor?" "It was perfect. I learned that those young students became wonderful adults, and more, their children and grandchildren are also being educated by our methods. 3 generations? 3 generations. Michael, do you realize what this means? That your legacy is immortal. That love multiplies endlessly when planted in education. 2 years later, Catherine Johnson, now 85, was diagnosed with a condition that would gradually limit her activities, but she wasn't shaken. "Michael," she said upon receiving the diagnosis, "it's time to pass the baton for good." "Professor, you still have so much to give." "I do, but now I can give in other ways. I want to write a book telling our whole story. I want to document every lesson, every method, every experience." "A book?" "A complete manual on transformative education, so other teachers can carry on our work even when we're no longer here." The book took a year to write. Catherine dictated, Michael typed. Each chapter was a lesson, every page filled with love for education. When it was finished, the book had 500 pages and was titled Planting Forests: How to Transform Lives Through Education. It was translated into 50 languages and distributed for free to schools worldwide. At the book launch, Catherine gave her final public speech. "Dear friends," she said, her voice now weaker, "this book isn't mine, it's ours. It belongs to every teacher who believes in the transformative power of education. It belongs to every young person who dares to dream despite the odds." She paused, looking at the packed auditorium. "Do you know the greatest lesson life has taught me?" The audience listened to her in absolute silence. There's no such thing as a person incapable of growth. There are only people who haven't found someone to believe in them yet. Our mission as educators is to be that person who believes. Always. The final ovation lasted half an hour. When it finally ended, Catherine stepped off the stage for good. 2 years later, Catherine was in the school garden, sitting in her favorite chair, watching the children play. At 87, she still came to school every day, not to teach anymore, but to talk with the young ones, listen to their stories, and offer advice. That afternoon, a little girl approached her. "Grandma Catherine, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Why did you do all this? Why did you help so many people?" Catherine smiled, pulling the girl close. "You know, dear, a long time ago I was very sad and very alone. I thought my life had no meaning left. That's when I knocked on a door and asked for help. And then I discovered there's always a reason to keep going. There's always someone who needs our help, and when we help others, we end up helping ourselves too. I want to help others when I grow up. And you will, I'm sure of it. Do you know why? Why? Because you have a good heart. And people with good hearts always find a way to do good." The girl ran off to play, and Catherine watched her. Somewhere in that yard was the next Michael, the next Carly, the next Charles, young people who didn't yet know the potential they carried inside. "Professor," Michael approached, "how are you feeling?" "Fulfilled," she answered without hesitation. "Complete. At peace." "No more dreams left to achieve?" "My dream now is to see all of you carry on the work, to see the seeds we planted grow in gardens we can't even imagine. And we know it'll happen." "I know it too, because love for education is contagious. Once someone experiences the joy of transforming a life through teaching, they can never stop." Just then Sophie came running over. Now 20, she was in her final year of teacher training. Grandma Catherine, I have news." "What news, dear?" "I got accepted into the master's program. I'll be researching early education methods for underprivileged children." Catherine hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud. And after your master's?" "I'll come back to work here at the school. I want to continue your work." "Not my work, dear. Our work. The work of everyone who believes in transformative education." When Sophie left, Catherine looked at Michael with a serene smile. "Michael, our mission is complete." "What do you mean?" "We've created an endless chain of people dedicated to education. Even when we're no longer here, the work will go on." "Professor, you still have many years ahead." "Perhaps. But even if I don't, I can leave in peace. I know we've left the world better than we found it." 3 months later, Catherine woke one morning feeling different, lighter, more at ease. She had coffee with Michael as usual, went to school, talked with the students. But there was something in the air, a sense of a cycle closing. That afternoon, sitting in her garden chair, she called Michael over. "My son, I need to tell you something." "What is it, Professor?" "Thank you." "Thank you for what?" "For seeking me out for 30 years, for never giving up, for letting me see the wonderful man you've become." "Professor, I should be the one thanking you." "No, Michael. You gave me far more than I ever gave you. You gave me purpose when I'd lost everything. You showed me my life was worth living." They sat in silence, watching the children play. "Michael, promise me one thing." "Anything." "Promise you'll keep believing in young people. Always. Even when it seems impossible." "I promise." "And do you promise to teach your children and grandchildren to do the same?" "I promise." "Then I can rest easy." That night, Catherine Johnson peacefully passed away in her sleep at the age of 87, knowing she had planted an endless forest of hope. Her funeral was a national event. Thousands came from around the world to say goodbye. Former students, teachers, young people whose lives had been changed by her programs, international dignitaries. Each had a story to share about how Catherine had touched their lives. During the ceremony, Michael Anderson gave the final speech. Professor Catherine always said that to educate is to plant trees whose shade we may never enjoy. But today, looking at all of you here, I see she was wrong about one thing. She did enjoy that shade. She saw it in every one of you as you grew, thrived, and transformed other lives. He paused, steadying his voice. Professor Catherine is not gone. She has simply changed form. She lives in every young person given an opportunity. She lives in every teacher who believes in their students' potential. She lives in every person who chooses to plant hope instead of harvesting despair. After the funeral, the Catherine Johnson Foundation and its schools carried on as usual. Just as she had planned, the structure was strong enough to stand without any one person. Sophie took over as head of the U.S. school's curriculum. Gabriel became the international legal director. Charles, back from Stanford University, created the new school model he had promised. Each former student took on a role, ensuring her legacy endured. A year after Catherine's passing, Michael was sorting through her belongings when he found a letter addressed to him. The shaky handwriting showed it had been written shortly before she left. "My dearest Michael, if you're reading this, our journey together has reached its end. I want you to know these last years were the happiest of my life. Watching you grow, seeing our work spread across the world, witnessing so many young lives transformed. It was a gift I never dreamed I deserved. You always asked if I regretted the sacrifices I made. Now I can answer with absolute certainty, I would never regret a single one. Every penny spent, every sleepless night, every tear shed was worth it to arrive here. You were my greatest pride, Michael, not just for your professional success, but for the man of heart you became. You took the lessons I tried to teach and multiplied them in ways I couldn't have imagined. Now it's your turn to be the teacher. Your turn to believe in young people who don't yet believe in themselves. Your turn to plant forests of hope. Always remember, there's no child incapable of flying, only those who haven't yet found their wings. Our mission is to help them discover them. Carry on our work, keep believing, keep planting. And when your time comes, you'll do as I have. Leave in peace, knowing you made the world better. With all my love and endless gratitude, Professor Catherine." Michael finished the letter with tears in his eyes, but they were tears of gratitude, not sorrow. Catherine was gone, but her legacy was immortal. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story. If you know someone who needs reminding that education changes lives, share it. Leave your honest thoughts in the comments about Professor Catherine's journey. Do you believe one person can truly change so many lives? What power does a teacher hold when they truly believe in their students? We'd love to hear your reflections. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories. Thank you for joining us on this inspiring journey.